Play.
Get ready. Storm made land over Texas, blowing from the Voodoo Sea. Clouds turned gray and all the birds flew away. All the old folks heard the sign say it's a big one, nothing like we've ever seen before. Lord, please love us and save us. We don't want the devil knocking at our door.
Today's show is sponsored by Farmer Joe's Fresh Market, located at 1401 Southwest Pine Island Road in beautiful Cape Coral, Florida. This week, straight from the farm, zucchini, squash, and jalapenos, 99 cents a pound. Grape tomatoes, 2 pints for $3. Everything you need more. Lee County's greatest grocery store, Farmer Joe's Fresh Market. Are you remodeling or building a new home? Call the wonderful people at International Marble. Quality craftsmanship and dedicated service for all your marble dreams. Call International Marble at 239-878-2200. That's 239-878-2200. Businessman, attorney, professor, author, veteran political analyst, Mr. Ford O'Connell is joining us, and we want to welcome you to Cracker Culture. I'm Smokin Joe. Ford, so much is happening in the country right now. The first thing I guess we should talk about is the D.C. plane crash. I uncovered information that just 24 hours before the American Airlines flight and the Black Hawk helicopter collided over the Potomac, another American Airlines flight, 4514, had to abort landing due to a helicopter crossing its flight plan at the same airport. I understand it's currently under investigation. Ford, I mean, we don't know if it's operator error, if it's, the traffic controllers. It's just awful suspicious. We've had 2 in 24 hours and 1 with catastrophe. What can you tell us about this, Ford?
Well, I think you're right. I mean, there is a lot of issues here. Whether we're hearing reports that the air traffic controller tower was understaffed, but also, let's be honest, I think President Trump's absolutely right. I think that Black Hawk was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And if you're having, 2 of these in a row, or allegedly 2 of them in a row, not to mention you've got a whole bunch of near misses at other commercial airports across the country, we need to be looking at exactly how the procedure is. I think what most people need to know is Washington, D.C.'s airspace at Reagan National is very unique compared to the rest of the country because it's the most tightly guarded airspace in the entire country because it is 3 miles from the White House and 3 miles from the United States Capitol. And after 9/11, that's why you start having the Black Hawk helicopters flying around on patrols and training.
Well, we obtained footage of the crash, and I want to tell people before I play it, it can be very sensitive. Please, it is hard to watch, but I'm going to show this now, and I want to thank Andrea, our friend Andrea from Collier County, for sending this to us. Let's play this.
Obtained exclusively by CNN show previously unseen angles of the collision between an American Airlines flight and a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter. In the first video, the Black Hawk can be seen flying at speed over the Potomac from the left side of the screen. The American Airlines plane can be seen flying towards the airport before the 2 collide, causing a mid-air explosion and fall into the river. In a second video, you can...
Lord, I mean, that's just horrific, and the lives lost, it's just breaks your heart, man. But, we do need to do better.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, look, my heart goes out to the 67 people who lost their lives and their families and their loved ones. This is a very difficult time, but this was preventable. This should not have happened. And I think that's what we need to learn. And hopefully, under Donald Trump, that's going to change because essentially you now have a real transportation secretary in Sean Duffy and not, how shall I say, the DEI previous secretary of Pete Buttigieg. So hopefully with the new sheriff in town, this is going to be changed. And I'll tell you, it gives me pause because as I've told you before, I've probably flown in on that runway, on that approach once a month for like the last decade. So trust me, I was like, oh my gosh, because, a lot of people don't know sort of that little runway. Yes, a lot of people go, but I'll tell you, you'd be surprised the number of Southwest Floridians and Floridians overall I encounter when we are actually making that landing at Reagan National Airport. I'm sure there's a lot of people around our area that are probably having a little pause and thinking next time they may go to Dulles. And my response is, look, I'm not thrilled with how short that runway is, but the bottom line is air travel is still the safest, mode of transportation. And Ronald Reagan National Airport is very, very convenient.
Yeah, I agree. Like I told you, it's been a few years since I flew into the airport, but I was very sketchy about the length of that runway. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I will tell you, I have been very worried about that, especially when there's snow and ice, and you could, miss the runway long and go right into Crystal City, Virginia, into a barrier. I mean, it is the only other runway that scares me. It's that short. It's commercial. Is Midway in Chicago.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I agree. The confirmations are underway and they're heating up forward. The main question from the left is, do you believe Trump lost the 2020 election? I don't know why that matters in 2024, whether you believe he lost or won. He won now. Let's move on with this one. But who do you think has been the most controversial in the confirmation hearings?
Well, I mean, obviously, Pete Hegseth, the new defense secretary, was, and it wasn't because of his record or anything else. It was essentially the fact that he wasn't a general or a defense contractor, and you saw the military-industrial complex try to smear him. J.D. Vance had to cast a tying vote. I'm a little concerned here that we have 53 Republicans, and they don't seem to understand that Donald Trump has a mandate. So the three that the media is currently focused on, Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel at the FBI, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. at Health and Human Services, look, they're out-of-the-box picks, but Donald Trump's an out-of-the-box president, and, he has a mandate from the American people. I'll tell you what a lot of people in the media won't tell you, and that is that RFK Jr. is actually polling the highest among the cabinet nominees of all of them. The second highest is Florida's own Marco Rubio.
Well, now, I noticed, and a lot of people was like, oh, my gosh, his cousin Caroline come out and threw him under the bus. He owns predatory animals and all this stuff. Look, the truth is, Caroline is as far left as they come. Of course, she's going to throw her cousin that went to the right under the bus. I mean, it's just bad when you start trying to bash your family. If you grew up with that man your whole life, you said, then, you at least have a little bit of support. Let him try to do it right.
Well, that's right. When it comes to family, if you don't have something nice to say publicly, you probably shouldn't say it at all. But let's be honest. Here's what Caroline Kennedy's actually doing. She wants to make sure that she gets invited to all the D.C. Democrat wine and cheese parties. That's why she's saying what she's saying, which is even worse if you think about it, because most of it is lies to begin with. But then she's only doing it to make sure that she's got a seat at the Georgetown table when they're actually getting together, the Democrats trying to screw over America.
Well, like I said, it's been very entertaining, to say the least, to watch this. And anybody that hasn't seen some of this, especially Kash Patel. Look, Kash Patel is just straight and direct, and they just don't know how to. He just eats them up.
That's right. Kash Patel's appointment television, because he's explaining to everybody what's wrong with the culture inside the FBI among the higher ups. I mean, the whole point is the FBI should never be working to crush political opponents. That's the whole point of our bicameral constitutional republic, is that they're going to stay out of it when we have elections. And unfortunately, for 9 to 10 years, they've been trying to undermine Donald Trump every which way to Sunday, from trying to bankrupt him, throw him off a ballot, put him in jail, you name it. They've tried to do it, and Donald Trump is prevailed, and that's the good thing. And now he should get his FBI director. I think Kash Patel could be a great one.
Well, I think you're right. I like to see Kash Patel there. Trump has also called for mass deportation. It seems that the left is more concerned with the illegals than the safety of the American citizens. What do you say, Ford? Are they going nuts over these illegals or what?
Absolutely. I mean, they understand that we've got 7.75 million illegals who either have a felony in their home country, a felony in our country, conviction, I might add, or standing trial for a potential felony. I mean, who are they over here trying to protect? And I'll tell you, the greatest thing that happened is when Trump stuck it to the Colombian president, who said, I'm not going to take back our violent criminal aliens. And what did the Democrats do before Trump actually prevailed in this? Oh, God, Trump is a dictator. He's threatening the Colombia president to improve the safety for the American citizens. Oh, and when it was the dodos at The View were the best of all, because before Trump, when Trump was pushing back on the Colombian president, before he relented and gave in, they said, oh, he's going to hurt uncut flowers at Valentine's Day, and the price of our latte at Starbucks might go up because Colombian coffee will be tariffed. I mean, you got to wonder whose side these people are on. Because subconsciously, not only do they hate Trump, it seems that they're rooting against America. And thank God Trump prevailed over Colombian President Petro, because if he hadn't, we would have had a big problem with Venezuela, El Salvador, and Haiti, because I'm going to tell you, right after Mexico, that's who needs to go back next.
Yeah, I just find it incredible. What are they really worried about? They're not worried about the fresh cut flowers or the coffee. They're really worried about the real massive export cocaine.
That's a good point. But I'll tell you something else is there's 1.4 million illegals who've received final deportation orders. What does that mean? That means there is no valve to save them. The judges have said it. No way. Even in California, no way. And under the Biden administration, only 30,000 of them are in custody. That's insane. That's why I tell people, you didn't need comprehensive immigration reform. That was such a loaded friggin' term. The bottom line is Joe Biden, this was by design. He engineered an invasion of the country because he made a policy choice. And that choice was not to enforce the laws on the books in the United States of America. And that is a true tragedy, but somehow our media doesn't seem to understand that. But I know you can do it if you want to, because Barack Obama deported 5 million illegal aliens when he was president of the United States.
And I've said that, I've fought that argument a bunch of times. People say Trump built cages. The truth is, Tom Homan built the cages for Barack Obama. I mean, and nobody wants to admit that Barack Obama ordered those cages.
Well, remember, the radical left only in the media only start crying when deportations happen underneath a Republican president. Doesn't matter if deportations happen under Barack Obama, because he's from up on high, and therefore it's okay, because he basically only started deporting people when he lost 63 House seats in 2010 and was feared that he could lose to Mitt Romney for re-election. Think about that for a minute. The only reason why Barack Obama ever followed the law was because he thought he might lose re-election.
Well, I heard that him and his wife's on splits. I guess he didn't want to remain gay. He wants to be bisexual now, from what I understand, with Jennifer Aniston.
Hey, all I know is Michelle Obama did not show up at the last two main events, and everyone thought it was because, she hates Trump. Apparently, they're on the outs.
Yeah. Well, Ford, can you break down, Trump just enacted the Laken Riley bill. Can you break that down for us so people understand what that really is?
Yeah, Laken Riley was a 22-year-old nursing student who was killed by an illegal alien while she was out for a jog in the state of Georgia. And what the Laken Riley Act says is that any illegal alien who is caught committing burglary, theft, or shoplifting must be detained and reported to ICE for deportation. Now, most of the Democrats say this is an unnecessary law. We don't need this law. These are already deportable offenses. No, here's the problem. Here's why we need a law that we shouldn't need. The Democrats do not believe that being in this country illegally is a crime. See, it's called 8 U.S.C. 1325 and 1326, unauthorized entry to the United States. The first time around is a misdemeanor with up to six months in jail, a fine, and deportation. And if you do it multiple times, it's a felony, and you can be in jail for up to a year and deported. So the bottom line is the Democrats don't believe that anybody is illegal. That's the entire part. So they go, well, if they haven't been convicted of shoplifting, why should they be deported? Because they've already committed a crime, as the press secretary pointed out. And somehow it comes on media.
Yeah, she done a great job. They kept trying to say, well, are all of these people criminals? She said, yeah. She said, how can they not be? They entered our country illegally. What more of a criminal can you be? It's just amazing to me. But we're going to go on over here to
the man's trash.
The part was how they were saying, literally, a hurricane could take your home away, but the man's trash. I mean, that is unbelievable.
The man's trash.
Man's trash. I mean.
Anyway, we're here on the man's trash. I wanted to talk about the Florida immigration bill. Even though this applies to the national topics as well, I want to discuss this bill and the war between the state legislators and DeSantis. I mean, it's heating up by the minute, Ford. I don't know how much you paid attention to this.
Things are getting pretty frosty up in Tallahassee. If you thought the 9 inches of snow in the Panhandle was bad, get ready for this battle between DeSantis and the legislature. And I get it. The legislature is unhappy with DeSantis because they think he's been running a dictator and roughshod over them. And, they want to give him what I call a Bronx salute. But two things can be true. DeSantis might have been acting like a dictator, but DeSantis could also be right on this issue too, and I think he is. And unfortunately, what the legislature has passed so far is a very, very weak bill that does nothing other than say it's the Trump Act. And unfortunately, the name should be taken off because that's a misleading thing. This is an opportunity to improve illegal immigration enforcement in the Sunshine State, and we have the opportunity of the century to do this, particularly with Tom Homan at the federal level, and somehow our legislature is pissing it away. Here's what makes me mad about the legislature, and that is that you get all these elected officials who want to talk the talk, but none of them ever want to walk the walk when push comes to shove, and that should be an eye-opening experience. We have a supermajority in the state house. We have a majority in the state Senate, and somehow they're acting like Democrats.
Yeah, well, I was shocked that our friend Treetop was one of the few that voted the right way.
Sometimes you have to tip your hat to Jonathan Martin when he does right. We need to point it out, and he's absolutely right on this. This is a bad bill, and it's not only that. You're not going to agree to work mandatorily with ICE. That's the entire point, because what I think a lot of people don't realize is, a lot of Republicans in our state throw up their arms and say, well, the federal government isn't helping us. I've always said there is more that you can do at the state level, and this is the opportunity to do it. Not only do you need to get this bill right for Florida, you need to get this bill right for the rest of the nation, because if they put forth the right bill, everyone else is going to wind up copying it, particularly states like Texas and Arizona.
Well, and people have to take a hard look at our representatives locally who supported this. I tell you, there's about majority of them are, we got poor representation in Southwest Florida. People want to argue that point, but it just shows. I mean, Trump enacted something that would help the country. And like I said, I know a lot of people think Ron's grandstanding or whatever, but for his own legislators to fight him this hard to take the teeth out of that bill, that's absurd.
Well, who helped that out is our state chamber of commerce. Those guys are the worst. Sometimes you wonder, not only are they working for Florida, are they even working for America? Because they're the ones behind this. They want to make sure that basically this bill has no teeth.
Well, and me and you talked about this off there. I've never been a fan of Wilton Simpson. I think Wilton's weak, and I don't think that he should be in charge of deportation in Florida. I don't think he would be charged at all, but I think it's a bad choice.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. This is not to bash ag in any way, but here's the deal. You cannot have the Secretary of Agriculture in charge of deportation proceedings, because just imagine for a second, let's say you get a better Secretary of Agriculture than Wilton Simpson, okay? But now it's a Democrat. If you're not forcing someone to see, this bill needs to work regardless of who's in office in the state of Florida. And the way that it's set up, it means that if the Democrats ever take over the state, you're going to have open doors the entire way, or you might get a bad ag secretary. And guess what? They just decide, I'm not going to enforce the law. That's what Democrats do. They allow it so that when you're in office, you can decide what kind of pressure you put on instead of following the law. And to me, that's just undemocratic.
Well, I didn't appreciate the snark comments that Ron DeSantis made about agriculture. And this is, I'm going to take the time to express my viewpoint on this, the illegal immigration in agriculture, those things. I've been in the agriculture business most of my life, since I was a young boy. And I've tried other things out there, but it always reverted back to, I've been in agriculture. And I'm in agriculture currently. I never have supported Wilton Simpson, but one thing I'm going to say, I've heard so much bull crap about the H-2A programs and the people that come over here the right way, that I've got to say something. This is not the 1970s. We're not bringing people over here and jeopardizing our businesses to keep them here and paying them $30 a week, as somebody stated. Look, I'm going to go over with you right now for H-2A. They increased the H-2A pay rate. So I was an H-2A contractor. I bring 100 guys from Mexico to work. They're allowed. They don't get to stay forever like everybody says. They're allowed to be here for 6 months. I can extend them for 3 months. That's 9 months. But the federal law, they have to spend 3 consecutive months back in their home country before they can ever come back. Now, if they was to run from that contractor has got 3 days to report it. You can't sit there and, they might have been sick or something. It gives you 3 day leadway. Nobody in big agriculture is holding these people like slaves, like they're claiming. And look, $16.22 an hour. That's what they make. Okay, that's not what the farmer pays. The farmer pays $28 an hour to get these guys. You imagine these people all bitching about the $15 an hour wage in America. We're paying $28 to bring them, and not only that, we're paying the $28. We're paying to bring them over. But you also, if you're an H2A contractor, you got to house them, you got to feed them, you got to provide them transportation. They got a medical problem, that's on you. You got to take them. And if you mess up and they file a lawsuit or they make a claim against you, you're going to pay for their attorney fees. So it's not like everybody's thinking. It's a hard road for those people that do come over here illegally. And I support those people. The illegals, I don't, look, I've seen them. I know they're around. And, everybody's, the Latino community. Wait a minute. Right through Immokalee, there's a Haitian community out there that's just as big as the Latino community.
Yeah, look, as I've pointed out many times before, under Biden, there's something like people from 160 countries that came over. And there's only like 192 in the United Nations, okay? We know exactly what Joe Biden. The only issue I have, and this is a valid point, is I really hope the United States Supreme Court overturns birthright citizenship because of the following point. Let's say one of your workers has a child on U.S. soil. Guess what? The child gets to stay. They get to stay. They don't have to work for you anymore. And they can bring over pretty much everyone up to their first cousin. To me, that's a perverse incentive, whether you come in on a visa or you come in illegally. To me, that has got to stop, because I promise you that'll cut illegal immigration in half right there.
Well, another thing, and I've talked to some people that have wives that were Latino that come over here and they hired a lawyer and everything to try to get their citizenship. And I know at one time we tried to help a bunch of people that we found out we didn't know. We found out we didn't offer to help them get their citizenship is because they were not criminals and other than, they come over the right way. But when I say that, I was talking, he said, look, we've been paying lawyers for 8 years. They're backlogged 8 years to process. Now, that's crazy, bro. I mean, these people are trying to do it the right way to get citizenship, and they're backlogged 8 years.
Well, the Democrats have tried to backlog and overrun the system. That was the whole point, because they wanted you to throw up your hands and amnesty anyone. And let me go outside the visa thing for a minute. We have something in Florida that's a big problem. A lot of people don't know about that. And this is what I call birth tourism. You get people from Lebanon, you get people from Russia, you get people from China who basically fly a private jet in here and have a kid. And this not only happens in Florida, it happens in Las Vegas, it happens in California. This has got to stop.
I'm totally agreeing with this. The only thing I'm saying is you need to fix it all. Don't fix a piece of it. Fix the whole, work on fixing the whole system. If there's people that should properly applying for citizenship and they went through the process, I can understand taking some time, but 8 years for it,
I hear you, but the Biden administration did that on purpose. They were giving people court dates 10 years out. I mean, that's the entire point that I'm talking about. But also remember, you got 1.4 million with final deportation orders, and they have been sent out. That's the whole point. That's what Tom Homan needs to streamline. You get that streamlined, you get the state streamlined, and let me tell you something: the federal government, you do need to fix the visa program too. So there's a lot of things you need, but that does not mean you need comprehensive immigration reform, because that's just a lying thing. What we need to fix is just two simple things: the visa system, to your point, and the asylum system. Because remember, you get all these people left always go, no, they're not illegal. They're asylum claimees. 90% of the people who claim asylum are doing so fraudulently. And frankly, from now on, you got to worry about it in your home country, or you're going to just sit outside the United States of America and screw up the drug cartel business, which I'm very happy to do right there. So you can have them sit on the border. But what needs to stop is this nonsense. So people say, well, they walk across Mexico. Mexico is a safe country under asylum. So you can't just start going shopping around and be like me saying, you know, if there was another country in this world that I would live in outside the United States, it might be Monaco. My God, you know what I think I'm going to do? I'm just going to fly into Nice, France, drive across Monaco, and you know, when my visa expires, I'm just going to sit there. You kidding me? That is what's happening, my friend.
No, I agree. We got a long road on this, but this is going to be very touchy. I think that all these people out here holding up flags for other countries protesters, I think whether they're illegal or not, they're to send them back because they're a disgrace to our country. I mean, we need to do what's right for Americans. And we've always been the biggest helping hand to every country in the world.
Well, that's exactly right. No more putting the rest of the world first. It's time to put American citizens and American green card holders first, and everybody else is second. Okay. And still, even when you do that, even under Trump, things are better, things are safer, things are more prosperous, but we're also still the biggest helping hand in the world. And a lot of the Democrats and the media need to remember that. And this country was not built. They like to use this word immigration. That's why I always tell all conservatives, do not say the word illegal immigrant. Say illegal alien, say illegal migrant, but do not say immigrant, because that's how the Democrats get around. They just play entire word games. And as you know, people aren't undocumented. They just never had papers in the first place. So there's no such thing as undocumented. There's illegal alien or there's resident alien.
And to my point, you know that I have to apply with Chicago. I have to apply in California, Chicago, and Florida, and Mexico. I have to go through all four of those to bring anybody over here. And so every one of those has checked each person's information before they're even allowed to leave Mexico. And all the years I've done this, you know how many people's ran from me before?
How many?
One. And I knew his daddy. He thought he'd get away with it because I knew his daddy. I reported him the minute he left, and they grabbed his ass up and took him back because you do it right or you don't do it at all.
Well, maybe you need to go up to Tallahassee and teach them how it needs to be done.
They don't hear that. They're talking about the H-2B workers out in the fields. That ain't true. H-2B is not for agriculture. H-2B is for commercial work. Construction. That's who Trump, being quite honest with you, Trump used H-2B more than anybody I know when he was president. I mean, it's good labor, it's expensive labor, but you got control of what you're paying. With who, Well, Ford, I've been following, how I'm about grassroots candidates. I'm a big supporter of anybody that's not pure politician trying to do the right thing. And I don't know if you've been following this kid from Plant City. He's almost 30 years old. He's a welder by trade, and he's running for governor. And he is running on the platform. He's a Floridian who wants to keep Florida, Florida. And man, I love that, Ford. I got a little clip. We'll talk about this kid.
Getting a Dear John letter can be downright disappointing. I mean, to get a letter that says, baby, baby, sweet baby, sent your saddle home and she don't want to be with you no more, well, that's depressing. Dear Matt letters are far more entertaining. They're normally full of explicits. They're always anonymous. And they always leave me with a chuckle. They're normally written by bureaucrats or angry employees of these government institutions that are just incompetent. So they go ahead and blame me for showing you just how bad they are at their job. They say if you don't understand history, you're doomed to repeat it. And wouldn't you know, Hillsborough County Board of Commissioners is considering building more houses on top of a former phosphate mine called the Sydney Sludge Pond. I'm Matt the Welder. God bless America. And in 2026, I want to be Florida's next governor because your government already hates me. And that makes me more than qualified for the job. But I need all the help I can get. If you like these videos, share them. And if you can, donate at mattthewelder.com.
I want to just give a little clip of this guy because he really is either he's a damn good researcher for it or he's got some, because he's brought up a lot of stuff about the carcinogens in the soil and stuff done by Mosaic that they've hid for years and stuff. The kid's really got a lot of good research, and I like him because he's not a politician. I mean, this is an average Floridian, hard-working guy welding for a living, just like me. He's fed up with them destroying our homeland.
Yeah, look, I'm also impressed with his social media use. I wish I had some of the social media skills that the 30-year-olds have, because I'd be doing a lot of better things. But I'll say this, look, he's a breath of fresh air. Do I think he's going to win? No. But what I do think is if he goes if he goes the entire distance, maybe he'll up his name ID so that he can run for a smaller seat and therefore win and do good for the state of Florida.
Well, he did run for a local seat up there this last election and lost. But I say that if he can keep his media present, this is a good thing. He ought to try to run for governor, win or lose. It gives him that name recognition to come somewhere else further down the road. And I mean, look, I've really looked into this kid a lot. I mean, he seemed like a good kid. He's got a beautiful family. And, you know, I hope to see somebody like that speaking for Florida. I really want to see Floridians speaking for Florida.
Hey, you make a great point. And I think, it's a breath of fresh air. Let's see how he does. I'm going to keep my eye on him. You brought him to my attention. I'm right there with you.
Well, you know, Ford, we talked a lot about Ron DeSantis and stuff, and currently there's a lot of talk about who's going to be running for governor. We've got the words that Byron Donalds is looking to run for that seat and is supposedly the favorite for 2026. What do you think the race for governor in 2026 is really going to look like for?
Well, it could be congested or it could just be Byron in the sense that, you know, look, I think whoever's going to win this race will likely have Trump's endorsement. Okay. And right now, I would say that Byron's best in line for the names that we're hearing to run. I also understand that Byron has already hired a pollster. I believe it's Tony Fabrizio. He's well on his way. He's had his eyes on the governor's mansion for quite some time. And with all the names we hear, I do think he is the favorite at this juncture.
Right. I agree. Like I said, well, I'd prefer Byron over Wilton Simpson any day. I want to talk about one local story before we end the show forward. The school district is violating state law, and that is 1003.543A by denying students that are pregnant in returning to their own school after birth of their child. Now, you know, we were young once, Ford. I mean, you know, you make mistakes. And, you know, while I don't think that we should cater to a pregnant mother as far as I don't even care for like some of the schooling where they do all the extra stuff to help them through the pregnancy so they get special transportation and all that stuff. I don't really agree with that. However, the law is the law. And they're in violation of the Florida statute. The program says it shall provide pregnant students or students who are parents of the children, these students with a comprehensive teenage parent program. The program should provide the students who are parents with the option of participating in regular classroom activities or enrolling in a special program designed to meet their needs pursuant to the statute. Now, there is a complaint been filed against the school board because they did go against the state statutes. Students have the option, according to the law, by denying them this, the option they're refusing them the best education possible. A student in Cape Coral wanted to graduate with her class, and they are being denied this option. I think it's wrong. Mistakes happen, and if a kid wants to better themselves, we should do everything to support that for them.
I agree with you. I cannot believe that they're going against life. Life is so precious. Why would you harm someone who is actually bringing life into this world? And why would you do it in Southwest Florida, especially with so many of our elected officials who tell you how pro-life they are? And then we find out, just like illegal immigration, they're just talking the talk. They ain't walking the walk.
Ford, I appreciate you joining me today. I do want to say our intro we've been using is by a guy named Wes, who is a friend of ours. He's a good guy, and you know he's topping the charts on all the indie records with his music. I want to say that we've had Wes. We've talked to Wes on the show before. We've had him on the show. A lot of people don't know Wes has one of the #1 podcasts on certain media sites, social sites, and it's called the Driveway Liberty Podcast. And the reason I'm telling you is they took a big break, like me and Ford sometimes have to take a break, but they took they call it a winter hibernation break. But I hear they're coming back, and they're friends with this show. And I'm telling you, support us, support them. They're great guys. They're a lot of fun. I mean, I think that me and Ford might try to keep it a little more, how do you say, not so out in the weeds. They get a little bit more funny than me and Ford can seem like we can get sometimes. Check them out. Ford, you got anything coming up, brother?
I'm just trying to make sure that Trump can keep making America great. You know, that's the whole thing. I mean, you talk about, I don't think people understand, whether even a lot of Democrats understand, even though the values may be different, how much the Biden administration drove this country into the ground. We elected a vegetable. I really mean that. He was in mental decline before he even assumed office. It's not like it was in the last year like Ronald Reagan. And let me tell you something. That is the biggest political cover-up in the modern era, and people need to be held accountable.
Well, I agree. And I hope that some of these pardons he done at the end can somehow be overturned, and especially Fauci.
Fauci needs to pay.
Thanks, Ford. Folks, for Smokin Joe and Ford O'Connell, we appreciate you watching. We love you, Florida. We'll see you soon.